So we have we have the amazing Miss Carly Citrin of Chalkbeat Philadelphia. Chalkbeat Philadelphia is led by Borough Chief Carly Citrin, who joined in March 2023. But she has been doing some phenomenal work.
Yes.
She came from Chalkbeat to from Politico, where she covered New Jersey education,
Mm-hmm.
policy, and politics. And prior to her time at Politico, Carly worked as a reporter at NJ Spotlight News, covering school, cannabis legalization, and other policy issues, and also held the role of social engagement manager.
Love that.
And Carly also has bylines at Vox,
Whoa.
the Boston Globe, WBUR,
Yeah.
Muck Rock, and Scripps Howard News Service. So
Mm-hmm.
she's just been busy, busy,
Busy.
busy.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
she's gracing us with her presence tonight, and we're excited to have her. So let's give a warm We Talk
Let's give a
Weekly
round of
welcome
applause. Yes, yes.
for Miss Carly Citrin.
How are you? How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great.
Let me make sure your voice is on. One more again.
I am doing
There she
great. I'm
goes.
so appreciative. Thank you all so much for having me.
Oh no,
Thank
it's an
you.
absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming. That's where let's start there. But one of the things that we do on the show, we normally we go into the interview, but we gotta ask how your day was. How are you? So tell us how you are.
Oh my gosh, I was so lucky. I've had a great day. We were at the Temple homecoming game today. They played great. Go Owls.
Yeah.
Go Owls. Owls,
Absolutely.
you at alma mater? That's your alma mater?
It's not mine, but
Okay,
it is
all
my
right.
fiance. So
Okay, then-
I've taken it on. I'm marrying into the family. I believe very strongly in the cherry way.
Fantastic. My frat brother came in from out of town. He was actually down here tailgating. So shout out to the
Yes.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. So cool. So let's start. Let's jump into kind of some of the things that you're doing. You know what? Let's rewind because you've been everywhere. What is this like with you? I guess jumping into the media sphere and talking about politics, legalization of marijuana, child care, all of that. You cover the wide range of beats. Should I start there,
Yeah.
right? So how was that, and what got you into being in this sector of like media and arts? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. I mean, I think the through line with everything I've been lucky enough to cover is that it's issues and it's social issues that people really care about.
Sure.
And it's places where people from varying different communities come together, right? Everybody has a connection to a school. You all went to school, or you got kids are in school, or your cousin went to school. Everybody went to school.
Everyone went to school,
And
yeah.
everybody shares really passionate feelings about education and about how it's going to shape our cities and our nation and our world for the future. And so I'm just really blessed and grateful to have been able to listen to as many people as I can throughout this process and try and elevate the voices of people who aren't always featured, front and center in our media narratives, and just trying to bring those voices to the forefront.
I love that you said that because one of the things that We Talk Weekly stand on, I lead with a mantra that if you don't tell your story, someone else will. And they may not tell it in a way that's necessarily the case, right? And so I love the idea of amplifying those voices who doesn't necessarily have an opportunity or a platform, because that's who we give voice to, right? And so since we have a platform, we give that voice. And so we're excited to do so. So you in your travels and amplifying those voices, do you see any, I guess, specific needs or any vulnerable communities that stand out as of late that didn't necessarily, but now they need some voice or amplification? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially since the pandemic and
Yes,
since the
yeah.
pandemic closure specifically of schools, we've got a whole generation of kids who've
Yeah.
got a lot of learning to do.
That's right, yeah.
A lot of folks who are out of schools who are now back in schools, or kids who had been in school for a year or two who then were pulled out and are now back. And so I think we're all just kind of reassessing where we're at and what we need, and then how to get there is that next step that I think a lot of folks are focused on now, is just how do we get the money, how do we get the
right, yeah.
time, how do we get the space to really do what needs to be done to get everybody back on track.
Yeah, yeah. It was a conversation based around, or they always say once school is out for the summer, it's getting back in. They say it's the summer slide. I don't think anyone actually did a study on COVID slide, so to speak. What were the ramifications of that, and how did that hurt, our children and our youth, right? And I think that's something to look at moving in towards, like, now we're going into 2025, and that was what, 2-3 years ago? When was COVID? Three.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. Wow.
I know.
It's been that long.
It feels
Oh,
so
wow.
soon
Yes,
for
yes, yes.
us.
Yeah.
It feels so soon for us, but I know for a lot of little kids and a lot of families with little kids,
Yeah.
they already don't have it's already 4 years ago. They already don't have a concept of it. Kids who are, entering first grade this year don't necessarily really remember what it was like already.
What's COVID? They don't know what COVID is. Interesting. They call it, these COVID babies are special. That's what they're saying. These COVID babies are special. They grew up, or they're growing up in this digital era, right? This whole idea of AI now, right? And something to worry about. I'm curious to know a little bit more about, some of the other things that, you found of interest in terms of, you partaking in like political and some of the other platforms you've been on, politics specific, because right now we're in this big kind of political crossfire, right?
Oh, yeah.
To put it lightly, right? So what are your thoughts on kind of like the political landscapes as we jump into the conversation on civics? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the path to the presidency runs through Pennsylvania and it runs right through Philly. So I'm sure I'm not the first one to tell everybody, like we are the deciding vote in a lot of ways. Right. So I've been really lucky to be able to spend my time going into high schools these past couple weeks and months to just see, how are our young people learning about civics and voting? What is being talked about? How are these discussions going? And then I was at a couple youth voting events these past few weeks to just talk to the young people to see, how do you feel? Like what is going on? How do you feel about the state of the world? How do you feel about voting and civics and education in the future? And what, countless young people have told me is they're tired of being overlooked. They're tired of being ignored. They're tired of not seeing themselves represented in our political candidates and the issues that they bring to the forefront. So a lot of young people are on the ground trying to get each other registered. Yeah, I mean, they're so insightful. They care really deeply about the minimum wage. A lot of our young people in Philly are working, right? They're working part-time, they're working after school, they're working before school. They need money. Their families need money. They said the fastest and easiest way to do that is up that minimum wage so that they can start, saving for college or contributing to their family. They also care really deeply about the violence in the Middle East. They really want their voices to be heard. We've seen, a lot of protests in the city and a lot of young people coming out and showing up. They all want safer, cleaner streets. Everybody wants to feel safe walking down the street, going to their school in the morning. Everybody cares really deeply about the gun violence and the car violence happening in the city too. A lot of young people are also really concerned about the 76ers arena and what's going on with that, and they have a lot of strong feelings about it.
Wow, interesting. I haven't heard that from any, but that's great. That's great. Okay, so if there was one particular thing that, so I'll start with this. If there was a young person who came to you and said, you know what, I don't know if I want to vote because I don't know if my vote counts or my voice is being heard the way that I would like it to. What would you tell a young person about just them being civically engaged to particularly vote?
Yeah. I mean, the only way change is going to happen is if people speak up and get involved. That's the only way. If you feel passionately about something or you feel passionately that you don't like the way that something is going, the only way you're going to be heard is if you, kind of dig into it. And I think especially in Pennsylvania and especially in Philly, your vote does count. It absolutely counts. I think I heard a city commissioner tell this story of a board race or a race that happened outside of the city in one of the suburbs, and it came down to something like 14 votes. And it's like, you really, your vote really does matter, especially in these down ballot, these local races where you're electing the people who are going to directly affect you and make choices that affect you. Your voice and your vote is really powerful. I think also, even if, you're feeling really disengaged with the political process, there are all sorts of civic engagement groups. There are activists, there are groups going out and working with the community that, if voting isn't your thing, which I think it's everyone's thing, and I think everybody should vote if you feel really passionately that it's not your thing, there are plenty of other ways to get involved. I know we've got reading captains around the city trying to get, kids on their blocks to read. We've got block captains. We've got all sorts of really incredible programs that are helping people stay engaged.
And you mentioned something that a lot of people don't say. And that's the black captains, right? And they're part of the community. That's you civically engaging people who can do certain things that's directly affecting you. One of the things that I was very disappointed with, if I'm being transparent, was all of the downvote that you're talking about, all of the people that affects us directly, I haven't heard any promotion as it relates to them. All I hear is president, 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 right? Yeah. So what accountability do we have to amplify that and hold people accountable for not even promoting what directly affect us? What's your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you say accountability, you know, I immediately think of us in the media and what our job is.
Right.
Our job is to get the word out.
That's
right.
Give you round of, that's right. There you go. Yes.
And so, you know, I think about the really great organizations that are part of Every Voice, Every Vote, that are putting out voter guides, that are doing everything, that are getting interviews with these candidates, that are doing their best to educate folks about what this position is and does, and who's running for the position and where they stand. And so, you know, it's on us to do everything we can to get that information out there. And it's on the people to just do a quick Google before Election Day and search, you know, the voter guide. I know Spotlight PA has a really great complete voter guide. Billy Penn always does a really great one. Yes. All the folks at Every Voice, Every Vote always, you know, try to really put out a lot of information. And all you got to do is Google it. Anyone can do it. I do it right before, you know, I make sure I'm set. They have all sorts of, if you go to the city commissioner website, they've got sample ballots where you can even look ahead of time to say like, oh, you know, this is what it's going to be like. These are the names I got to know. And you do, you know, a couple minutes of research before you go. Even when you're standing in line at the polls, just do a quick check. And it really goes a long way.
I love that. I love that. Just Google. Just Google. Real simple. If a young person asks you, well, I hear the idea of being civically engaged and playing my part. How would you define what civics is to a young person being civically engaged?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about how you interact with your city.
That's right.
Right? It's your community. It's showing ownership of where you live and where you're from or where you've moved to. And thinking about, you know, what are the things I don't so much like about my city or my community, and what are the things I really do like, and how can I transform the things that I don't like into things that I do like? What would I like to see better? And it's sometimes easy to think about, well, what's the thing I'm most passionate about? If I bike every day, I care really deeply about bike lanes, right? So then pick an issue, go really deep on that issue, find the people who are organizing around that issue, and go tag along and just see what that's about. You know, if it's not bike lanes, it's something else. It's you know, just what are the things that you feel passionately about that you'd like to change, and how do you think you can change them? And I promise you, there are people out there for every issue. There are people organizing on every side of every issue. There will be people there to welcome you in and to give you something to do and to give you a job and to sign you up.
Speaking of issues, right? I know this is Lauren's thing, right? This is Sizzle's thing. You have a thing you want to say?
Oh, go ahead.
So speaking of issues, right? One of the things that you're very passionate about is legalization of marijuana, right? I want to talk a little bit about that and to pull those layers back, because there used to be, or not too long ago, was this huge push to amplify that. It seems as if it was slowing down a little bit. I don't hear too much more about advocacy work behind the legalization of marijuana, especially who it pretty much affected the most, right? But what's going on right now in that sector as it relates to the legalization of marijuana? And do you think that there's opportunity for communities who suffered by way of policy that affected marijuana? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, I'm not as plugged in Pennsylvania as I was in New Jersey. I'm mostly, you know, I'm all education in Philly, but
it's a national conversation.
It's a national conversation, and there's so much intersection, especially when we're talking about young people.
That's right.
And so, I think the one thing that I did learn from covering it in New Jersey is that the activists are there. The activists for any issue are always there, and they're working hard. I think there's a different willingness in every state house. I think when you've got a state like Pennsylvania, which is really big and represents a lot of different people, you know, certain voices are brought up in discussion, and certain ones are not always brought into the conversation. I think in watching the process in New Jersey, it was really hard. It was a really long process. They tried to get it done through legislation. They printed out hundreds and hundreds of pages of legislation. They couldn't even do it through the state house in deep blue New Jersey. It had to go to the ballot. And so I think what we're seeing in other states too is like the way to do it is to put it on the ballot and let the people choose and let the people speak. And the people have pretty much overwhelmingly spoken in favor of legalization in the cities and in the states that have put it on the ballot. But whether Pennsylvania will do that, that is not my decision.
Come on, y'all. Come on, what you doing? Hurry up, right? I think it's interesting conversation to be had as it relates to precedent that's set somewhere else, and we're right next to them, and it's like, okay, if you see it's working, what's going on over here, right? And so if you were, say, for example, in a leadership position like that, right, what policies would you set to make sure that, legalization of marijuana is consistent across the board? Would you do that, or do you think that certain areas may not be ready for that? Like, what's your thoughts on it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, there's a reason I'm not running for office.
Me too. Me too.
But I will say, in talking to folks who have been making these decisions in other states, the things that they've said really mattered are you got to be careful about the tax rate because you want to earn money off of it for the city and for the state. If that's the reason why you're doing it, you got to do it that way. You got to make sure there's money for schools or for, community groups if that's something that you prioritize. I think it's also what was interesting in New Jersey was how they navigated the expungement process and how folks who have been incarcerated for possession or use, how they were going to deal with that in the aftermath. And so there was a lot of discussion about, like, do we offer automatic expungements or do we have to have people apply for it? And so I think any policymaker who's considering legalization needs to think through these very real questions of, like, we spent a lot of time locking people up for this. And if we decide that it is now legal, what are we going to do for all those folks? Is it something that we do automatically, or is it something that we have people reach out and apply for? And so these are questions and conversations that I'm hoping that lawmakers are having as they consider this process. Right. I haven't spoken to any lawmakers specifically about this, so I don't have any inside knowledge. I'm with you guys on this, But yeah, when I've talked to other lawmakers in other states, you just want to make sure that everybody's thinking through all the eventualities and learning lessons from the cities and states that have already done it, right? Like talking to your counterparts in New Jersey and going, what do you wish you'd done better? Or, what could we improve upon? Or, how could we do this differently if that's, something that's...
Carly for president. Come on.
No. I do not need that kind of attention. It's only bad news.
The smoke that both of them are getting right now is woo.
I think Pennsylvania really needs to do something about it because, like you said, when it comes to those people who have been prosecuted over things like that, I've seen the process. Me coming from a law enforcement background, I've seen the process of, the people who are going through, getting the arrest and then going through what they call the SAMS program, the small amount of marijuana program, and then not having the money to pay for the program. And then if you don't, they take the charge to trial and you're convicted of this crime. And then you have this on your record. So I really feel like, if anything, it needs to be something done when it comes to, trying to get those people, like, get those expungements. Like, don't let it be something that they have to apply for, because a lot of them don't know. They don't know that, it stays on your record until you apply for an expungement and it's removed. So I just feel like, Pennsylvania has a lot of work to do when it comes to that. So that's just my personal opinion.
No doubt. I want to get into family now, right? Because you're very knowledgeable on so many different sects and platforms. Mom, dad, family, siblings, do they have the same interests in, like, media and reporting? Like, what are their interests like?
No, I did not come from a media family. I came
You
from
just jumped in.
I really went rogue. I came from a long line of dentists, of very
Okay.
respectable, responsible people. And I said, I'm not interested in anybody's mouths. So that's not, or I guess I am interested in what comes out of your mouth. No. So my brother is actually he does sound design for video games
Okay.
out
Oh,
in
fantastic.
Seattle, which
Okay.
is really cool. It's a really interesting industry.
Yeah.
My sister's in the restaurant industry.
Okay.
She's really crushing it up in New York. But my mom and all my family are right across the river in New Jersey. So I try and get back and visit as much as
I
possible.
hear you. So what was the impetus? What was the trigger for you to say, you know what, I'm putting my foot down. It's certain people that need a voice. I need to jump in there. What was that?
Yeah, so I spent a year after I graduated high school. I was not ready for college. I didn't feel prepared. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have money to do it. I didn't know what I was doing or how I even got here. So I took a year before college, and I spent some time in Ecuador, and I lived with a family there. And I didn't speak any Spanish when I started, and now I'm, barely conversational. I've lost a lot of it. But what they kept telling me the whole time I was there was like, just listen to us. Like you don't have to talk. And I think because I didn't speak Spanish, I was forced to not talk, and it was the first time in my life where I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak what was in my head, and I think it was that forced silence and that forced listening
Yeah.
was just like, whoa. Whatever I have to say is useless. Like it's what everybody else has to say that is so interesting and important. And people who've lived different lives than me, it's, their voices are the ones that we need to be listening to, not my, whatever I have to say. And so it was like that experience of really being put in a position of like, I was very good in English class in high school. And all of a sudden the thing that you're best at, you can't do. And, coming from another country, it's like, when people can't speak the native language, you have this assumption that they're dumb. And I think a lot of people just assumed I was, dumb or couldn't learn or why aren't you doing it? And it was that experience that really taught me, like, there's so much value in slowing down and listening to what people are actually saying. It's how you learn. I learned so quickly everything I needed to know just by being quiet and listening. And so it's something that I've tried to continue throughout this journey.
What was the culture like there?
It was very different. I mean, it was very communal. We all lived in a house together. It was very cold. It was in the Andes Mountains, which, you think of Ecuador being near the equator, but no, I was up in the Andes Mountains. A very close-knit family, very loving family. We still talk to each other on Facebook. Just really good, solid people who had a very set way of life and just wanted to kind of go about their lives. I mean, they had their gripes about their communities, just like anybody has their gripes about their communities. We have a lot more in common with everybody, I think, on this planet than we think. But yeah, it was just a really helpful and enlightening experience.
Yeah. I think you said something really profound that stood out for me because I feel the same way. Sometimes, I mean, you didn't say this, but sometimes you just need to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Just shut up and listen. I think oftentimes we don't listen. We listen to respond, right? We don't listen to take it in and listen to actually see what this person is saying. We just ready to respond so fast. No, you're wrong. And so I think we would be a better community, better, even when we talk about civic engagement, right? Part of that is listening to the people that you feel like you want to make change for, right? And so if we do a better job with listening, I think we'll be in a better place. So I get it. Definitely. I love it. If it was one last thing that someone was sitting in front of you and just as a hypothetical, and they said to you, because we get a lot of this, I'm just not voting. I'm just not voting. I don't care about it. I hate the candidates. I'm just not voting, right? What would you say to a person like that? Do you feel that there is space to allow them space to take a position like that? Or do you believe that, which is the current narrative, this is which I hate to hear, this is the most important election on all time. We hear that all the time, right? And so what is your position on someone who actually stood in that? Do they have space for that? Is there space for that? In are they communicating with their voice by not saying anything? Like, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, first I want to say I get that. As someone who is steeped in politics, there are days when I wish I did not have to read the news. But I will say, so something I learned very recently from a teacher at the academy at Palumbo. He was a high school teacher who I sat in and visited. Shout out to Charlie McGeehan.
Okay. Give him a round of applause. No doubt.
He taught me something really interesting, and what he said was, a lot of young people, specifically high schoolers, especially people who can vote, are being beat over the head with this concept of it's important to vote. Voting matters. You have to vote.
Right.
And what he said is that message just falls flat if you don't let people come to that discovery on their own. So the way he's been structuring his high school classes, they start with the concept of voting, and they have this like Socratic seminar where they debate with each other, is voting a right or a privilege? Do you think everyone should vote, or should there be restrictions on voting? Do you agree with the age limit on voting? And they just start real small with like, what do you think about our voting system at all? And then they work up, and then they get to the issues, and they get to the politics, and they get to the electoral college, and they get all to the all that kind of stuff later. But what Charlie said was, when you let people come to that discovery on their own, it hits so much harder and it sticks so much more. And so I think when you're confronting someone who says, I'm out, I don't care about it, politics isn't for me, it doesn't affect me, it's easier to start small and say like, what do you hate about voting? Is the answer you just can't be bothered? Is the answer you've got too much going on? Is the answer the process is really hard? Because that gives you an inroads, right? Then it's like, well, maybe we need to change the process to make it easier for people. Or, maybe we need to make politics a little bit more approachable. Or maybe we need to start with a singular issue that someone cares really deeply about and use that as an inroads to more conversation. But yeah, the lesson learned was, just telling people it matters is not going to have an impact. You have to help people come to that discovery on their own.
I love for president. You're right, president. This is a wonderful interview. And one thing that we always say is, once you come to the show, you're a friend to the show, so you're always welcome to come back. So we would love for you to come back to have this conversation, more conversation. Especially once we find out who the next president will be, because I'm sure that's going to be a huge topic, right? We may be making history, or we may go back to where we were before, right? Who knows, right? But at the very least, it'll be a conversation piece, right? What is the legacy that you would want to leave behind?
Oh my gosh, what's the legacy you all? I feel like we all just want to be remembered for being a good person, right? You want to be thought of as someone that did more good than bad. I think that's the bare minimum is you just want to use your time here to do things that help people and to not do things that hurt people, and to hopefully, the good outweighs the bad.
Wow. Yeah. If good.
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to ask, because we're just a few short weeks or days or whatever. It just doesn't seem like the time is just going by so fast. But
November 5th, right?
Yes.
November
from
5th,
the
y'all.
election,
November 5th.
It's insane. But what are some of the things you and Chalkbeat are going to be doing over these next couple days?
Yeah, I mean, we've started rolling out our coverage. So I wrote a story recently about talking to youth voters. We've been going into high schools and talking about, how teachers are teaching the election. We're going to be following up the day after. We're going to go back to these high schools and sit down with the students and say, how did this process go? We're also, we're part of Every Voice, Every Vote. So we're going to be trying to boost. Shout out. We're going to try and boost the work that other folks are doing, because we're all in this together, and, we are not high and mighty in any sense. So if you all are doing good work, or you hear of other people doing good work, let us know. We'll use our position to be able to elevate the work that everyone's doing, and just unite and get folks out there. And I think that's what we can expect.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that and the age groups that you're primarily targeting is what? The ones that are voting age and almost, or
Yeah, I mean, we cover, so as Chalkbeat, we write about pre-K through 12. So
Okay.
we focus on schools coverage for anyone who's in the school system, whether you're in the public traditional schools, the charter schools, cyber charter schools, whatever school you're in, we've got coverage for you.
Okay.
But especially in the lead up, I think we are definitely focusing on the people who are voting age, voting for the first time, and the people who are watching their peers vote for the first time, and what they're learning and what they're taking away, because they're fired up and passionate too. There were some high school classrooms that said, we should lower that voting age to 16. We're ready to go. Let us get in there.
Yeah.
They ready. But they still can be engaged in a process, right? Yeah, they still can be engaged in a process.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to get involved. Look up your block happens. Do a Google. I can't believe I'm here. My big statement is do a Google. Get out there. See what's out there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if do Google,
Please.
That's funny. And so, working with the kids is a great thing, and I think when we talk to youth again is sometimes they become or feel that they are the voiceless, right? And so I love to give them a platform. And one thing that you mentioned is what we are here to do. We created this platform to give people like yourself, right, who are doing excellent work, and the partners at Every Voice, Every Vote, people who are in the community that's doing certain things that need to be amplified, right? It doesn't do any justice for you to do work and no one knows what you're doing, right? Because the resource seems unattainable, right? And so if we have this, one of our accountability or what we make sure that we're accountable for is to amplify that voice so the community can get those resources, right? So we appreciate you and some of the work that you're doing. So thank you for doing what you do. And what before we let you go, we want to know what things that you are working on that you feel people need to see and to know about, and tell us how they can get in contact with you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm very easy to get in contact with. I am on every social media. You can go to chalkbeat.org and you click Philadelphia. You'll see our names on there. It's got my email and all our contact information. We've got some exciting stuff coming up. This is actually a really exciting school year this year. We've got new English language arts curriculum. We've got this year-round school pilot program that's kicked off. We've got, a facilities planning process that is working down the line. It is a really exciting time to be in Philadelphia schools. And so I'd say just, tune into Chalkbeat to see what's going on. We've got a texting project. We'll let you know when the school board meetings are coming up. That's another way to get involved. If you want to come see what's going on at your school board meeting, come on down. I believe it's next Thursday at 4 p.m. on 440 North Broad. I'll be there. I'll see you there.
You got to give a round of applause.
Come to the school board meetings. Check on how it's going. And I would just say check out chalkbeat.org. We've got bureaus in a bunch of major cities across the country. So you can also see how things are going in Chicago or in New York or in Indiana or Colorado as well.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
So real quick, can you tell everyone who's watching, what is Chalkbeat? Why don't you give them an explanation and tell them a little bit about that so we can make sure people check them out?
Yeah, Chalkbeat is really, really cool. So we are a nonprofit news outlet, which means we operate as a nonprofit model. We write articles specifically about education in the schools. That's all we do. We are only focused on education. A lot of times a newspaper will do a bunch of different things, look at different policies. We are all education all the time. So we are devoted to that. All our stories are free. There's no paywall. They're also licensed under Creative Commons. So if you would like to republish any of our work, that's completely free. But it's a one-stop shop for anything you would need for education. We just recently put out a guide. It's probably a little late now, but if you went to back to school night, we had put out a guide of here's some questions you could ask when you go to your kids' back to school night, because I know people are really busy. We try and put out a guide every winter about early childhood education, so how to access the free pre-K in the city. All sorts of other resource guides and just information. We do recaps of every school board meeting. If you can't make it, we'll go for you. We'll tell you what happened. A bunch of other stuff. So if you're interested in what's going on in the schools, we've got it for you.
Fantastic. I want to just give this gentleman a voice, Liberty Twitch. I mean, he was asking a lot about, immigrants' right to vote and how they're feeling that they're being hushed and rights are being taken away from them. But one thing that he's very interested in is, and I'll pull this up, the website again. So if you can give them that information so he can check it out and all that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so chalkbeat.org, CHALKBEAT.org. We've got information about the schools. If you're looking for a complete voter guide with a lot of information about voting, you can check out Spotlight PA. Our sister or brother site is VoteBeat. So if you have questions about being disenfranchised, our reporters over at VoteBeat, VOTEBEAT, they also have a lot of interesting stories and resources over there as well. And any of the Every Voice, Every Vote partners as well. We're
doing some great work out here, y'all.
We're really shouting them out today. But if you check out the Every Voice, Every Vote platform, they also have a collection of all sorts of resources there as well.
That's right. And you'll see We Talk Weekly over there, y'all. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And however you identify, right? We're here to give voice to everyone who are doing some excellent work. And so make sure you continue to tune in. One more time, how can I get in contact with you again? One more time, sure.
Check out chalkbeat.org. My email address is CSITRIN@chalkbeat.org. You can find me on any social media. I'm Carly Citrin. I think I'm the only one out there. They did spell my name wrong in the Office of Property Assessment, but I'm working on getting that fixed. If anyone's listening from the Office of Property Assessment, please call me. But I should be really easy to